Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at race number 11 at Pimlico on Black Eyed Susan Friday. It's the $100,000 The Very One going 5/8 of a mile on the turf for fillies and mares. Big field in here. Let's take a peek right now. You can go so many different ways in this race, Mike. You've got speedballs like Future Is Now, who took on males last time out, Coffee Maker, who took on males last time out. You've got a horse like Basara, who's got a lot of early speed, a Maryland bred champion taking on some open foes here. And then you got Queen of the Mud, who's relatively unexposed, stepping up in class off a good-looking win last fall.
Yeah, I mean, this will be the toughest test so far for Queen of the Mud, but I think you have to like what you've seen from her so far. We'll see what she does off the layoff here, Dan. You're right. It's a big field. These races are usually competitive. I think you're going to get speed out of several of these horses. Kind of feels like, at least in my opinion, Coffee Maker's the horse to beat, but she's off the layoff too.
Take a look at the pace projector for the Very One Stakes, and boy, we expect a fast pace. Red bar is right there. Not sure Port Townsend is really one of the confirmed speeds in here, but High Class has got to go from a tough post. So Shana has speed, Basara has speed. Future Is Now, the number 10, is very, very fast as well. So
Yep.
I think this pace is going to be hot. Coffee Maker again, fresh speed.
Yeah, Coffee Maker has speed too. Yeah, this pace could certainly get heated up, and it's just unfortunate in the case of High Class that she's drawn way outside again. So far, all of her speed's been on dirt, but this is going to be the second consecutive turf start day in which she drew the far outside.
Queen of the Mud might work out the right scenario from mid-pack in a fast-paced race. She's won her last two, including this first-level allowance race, to complete her 3-year-old season at Keeneland. And she's over and behind horses right now. Once she gets out of the clear, this is a very strong stretch kick, Mike, to run down a tiring pace setter, a horse that would come right back to winning with an 88 Beyer speed figure and a first-level allowance on synthetic.
Yeah, this is a really strong finish that Queen of the Mud puts in the last furlong of this race. She's the only one coming to get this horse at the end, too, and she runs right over the top of her, basically. Really good performance. The win two back in New York, she just had all the best of it on the lead that day, but it's another race where if you go back and pull the replay, she really finished that race off. The last furlong, she just ran away from those horses and gave them absolutely no chance. It feels like she has a lot of talent, Dan, and motion is great off of layoffs like this.
Hollywood Walk, the number 2, goes out for Mike Trombetta. She was a winner 2 starts back at Colonial and a second-level allowance. Then against Virginia, owned and sired, ran third in the Camptown Stakes, a race where the runner-up came right back to win with a 93 Beyer in a Grade 3 race on synthetic. Now, she's missed a lot of time. I think she still has a lot to prove against open stakes horses sprinting on the turf. The setup might be there, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, she could wind up just falling into a really good drip here. And I do respect the fact, Dan, that she sort of ended that 2023 campaign. The last 2 starts are the 2 best races she's ever run. So I kind of feel like that those are positives for her. We'll see how ready she is off the left. She could get the right trip in this race.
I think it's too early to give up on the 3 Port Townsend, who won her first 2 starts sprinting on the turf at the fairgrounds. They then tried the Giants Causeway last time out, and she was on a hard chase after a fast pace, and she paid the price. I think the winner of that race is very, very good. The 4th place horse came back to place in a Grade 3 on turf at Churchill with a 92. So she fits with these horses, and she doesn't need the lead. So I'm expecting Brian Hernandez, who was aboard when they raided with her 2 starts back, to try to take her back and maybe grab the pocket or sit in the second or third flight.
Yeah, I agree. I like the fact that they can do that with her if they have to. I mean, obviously she has good speed, but they don't have to use it. Maybe they can just fall into a trip here. She's very lightly raced, still unexposed. Just a real, I mean, this is a good field. It's not nearly as good as the one that she just faced, though, at Keeneland. So they back her up a little bit here. She could still move forward. I have to use this horse.
Coffee Maker, the number 4, was super at Saratoga last summer in a high-level allowance. Just went right to the front and put the boots to that field as the favorite. Earned a giant Beyer speed figure. Wesley Ward then ran her against the boys in the Woodford Stakes, and she showed good speed. She was close to a very, very fast pace that day before tiring. So I think you should treat that run with a grain of salt, but it's another layoff for a mare that's only run 10 times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they don't get a lot of racing out of her, but usually when they do get her on the track, she shows up and runs. You mentioned that they faced Colts in her most recent start. He almost exclusively runs her against Colts. She's 3 for 4 lifetime against other fillies and mares. So this is probably the right spot for her. She's got good speed. So we'll see if the pace just winds up being too fast for her, especially with the layoff factored in. But make no mistake about it, her good race makes her really hard to beat in here.
Stakes debut for the 5, Lily Simone, who was claimed for a nickel. 5,000, not 50, back in February the 15th, 2023. She's won a couple of times for these connections. It's been a good claim. Last time out, first level allowance, chased a quick pace. Runner up came back to place on Peta in a allowance race with a 79 buyer. She's going to hope for a pace meltdown in here, Mike, because on paper, she looks a little overmatched.
Yeah, pace projector looks really good for her. Everything else kind of doesn't look that good for her. Kind of feels like she's biting off more than she can chew here.
Shana is 3 for 3 on turf, and she has speed. Here's her most recent start. Final start of 2023. She was able to get to the lead. Martina Rojas is very good nursing horses along on the lead, and she got Shoshana with a clear advantage here. But remember, it's a long stretch going 5.5, and she's just going to be able to hold on against Shasta Star, who was on a big win streak at the time. A good effort for Shoshana. She's done little wrong on the turf. Now she gets the class quiz.
Yeah, I mean, really good effort here. She's 3 for 3 now, sprinting on the turf in her career. But all of those races, Dan, in allowance races, going wire to wire, it just feels like that's going to be really hard for her to accomplish against this kind of a field.
Maryland-bred Basara took home some hardware at the recent Renaissance Awards for Maryland breds. I think she was Maryland-bred Turf Horse of the Year. It's 3-year-old filly. She won. When she switched to the turf, she just became a completely different horse, utilizing her speed to win 3 in a row. They tried to race at Monmouth last time out. She got cooked on a very fast pace before tiring. Now she's got to deal with a long layoff and the possibility of another fast pace.
Yeah, maybe even a faster pace. It really worked against her the last time we saw her. So we'll see how fresh she is here off the layoff. Then it feels like they're coming back in a really tough spot for her. But I'm not going to knock what she's done on the turf so far.
All that magic talk about a horse that improved when switching surfaces. This one won 4 in a row switching to turf, 5 of her first 6, and the only loss during that span came over a boggy turf course in the Turf Monster against the boys. Her final start of the year is this race, the Autumn Days at Aqueduct, going 3/4 of a mile. She gets wired by a giant long shot in here. She's going to come with a decent enough run in between horses to finish third. I talked to Kate DeMasi early Monday morning. She said maybe all that magic was a little bit over the top and they ran her one time too many in 2023.
I mean, it's certainly possible. She's pretty game here, though, Dan, to just miss second in this race. And these are the kinds of those races at Aqueduct on the turf at the end of the season there. You just don't want to be too hard on horses that don't really run their A race that day. I think it's also worth pointing out, she totally blew the start. She broke from the rail there, just totally blew the start. And then actually, I thought ran pretty well in there. So we'll see. I mean, based on what she did on the turf prior to that, take her chances pretty seriously there. Her turf form is really good.
Dulce Kiara, the 9 up in class off this runner-up effort, when entered for the $20,000 starter option at Laurel. She turns into the stretch mic, and it looks like she's just swinging under J-Ron Barbosa. And somehow, some way, she fails to get it done against weaker horses.
Yeah, I don't like this loss, especially when you're talking about them now moving their way up in class to face better horses. It makes me just feel like she can't beat this field. I do, however, respect the fact that her prior start on turf when she won, they sort of took her a little bit off of it and she made her run through the stretch. So maybe those kind of tactics will work better for her.
And it's worth noting, I believe she does have the fastest time form U.S. late pace rating. I'm a big fan of Futurist now. Boy, did she look good at Pimlico on the turf last summer, where she blasted to the front and dominated a group of first-level allowance horses. She ran okay on turf at Gulfstream 2 back in the Captiva Island. She made the lead that day, and the favorite Stone Silence snuck through inside of her and beat her. And last time out, they ran her in the King Leatherberry. And Mike Trombetta told me Monday morning they needed a spot to run her. They didn't want to come into this race off a little bit of a layoff. So they ran her against the boys, and she got cooked on a very fast pace.
Yeah, I mean, she can't afford to, I guess, run that kind of a race here, though, Dan, where another fast pace is expected. So we'll see what kind of trip she can get. Another horse who I feel like has the overall form that you really want to take her pretty seriously. I mean, her good race is actually really good. I wonder if she has the right running style for this kind of race, though.
Anonymously, the 11 has entered main track only. We'll move on to the 12, La Travesa, who won her first 2 starts when switched to turf by Michael Matz. Couldn't really find much of an excuse, though, in that race 2 starts back, Mike. A high-level allowance race. Then in the Abuntianda, she ran into Stone Silent, the horse that beat Future Is Now. She's coming off a little bit of a layoff now. So after a promising start to her turf career, she's kind of in limbo.
Yeah, she is. I mean, we'll see how much better she can get. I think you don't want to be too hard on her at this point. I mean, there could still be more improvement out of her. And I'll just say this: I can't find an excuse for the race 2 starts back. She just didn't run that well. That last race there in December at Gulfstream, that pace was not fast, man. And she was trying to close in there. I mean, I'd be a little lenient on her for that performance.
High Class is going to complete this field for Steve Asmussen, and this filly is pretty fast. She tried turf for the first time in the Giants Causeway. She drew a terrible outside post position, couldn't get to the lead, and that was the end of it. She draws another terrible outside post position. We'll see if Joel Rosario has better luck. I'm expecting her to show some speed, but she still has to prove she's a turf horse, and she still has to prove she can overcome a tough post.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate for them that they drew this post again, especially with her running style, because all that stuff just feels like it conspires to really work against her. I mean, maybe we won't even find out here if turf is going to be her surface. We have to wait for one more chance, but there's certainly the possibility that this is what she wants to do. Her pedigree says it is.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the very one stakes. I'm looking for late kickers for the most part. I like the 8 All That Magic. I like the 1 Queen of the Mud. I'm a fan of Future Is Now. I think she might be the best of the speeds, but Queen of the Mud has all the upside.
Yeah, she really does. So far, she's looked really good out there, Dan. And I just appreciate the fact that the last time we saw her, she rated and ran. That could really work here. I'm happy to take motion off of a layoff and a horse like this. I like your top pick too, though. I almost put her on top. I put her second.
Motion absolutely sensational off layoffs. Got to look at her last workout on video. She looked really strong going through the stretch. 1834 for Mike. All That Magic for me should get the setup. She's really done little wrong on the turf. I'm hoping she can kick on, but it's all about getting a trip when you're rallying from the back of the pack in a full field going short on the lawn. 810 112 for me. 1834 for Mike. It's the very one at Pimlico on Black Eyed Susan Friday. Good luck.